Zenith is a game of intergalactic dominance, I should say influence. It's like a 4X game without the exterminating, but you have gonna develop technologies, you're gonna develop influence. I guess it's a 2X. You don't have the Explore either. 2X game that, however, happens to be very friendly. We're gonna try to increase our influence in the solar system, and we're gonna diplomatically employ robots, anthropomorphic animals who are called animoids, and humans. Yes, we have those too as well. It is a game primarily for 2 players, with a variant to play with 4 in 2 teams. And since the game is the main mechanic is a tug-of-war kind of mechanic, you're gonna try to pull these tokens representing influence in your direction until you collect it, and another one is placed there. Since it is tug-of-war on multiple tracks at the same time, it really seems that ultimately it is a 2-player game, and I played it only with 2 players. You have cards, a nice deck of cards representing, again, robots, humans, and animoids, as indicated by those symbols there. With the color of the card and the pattern of the planet represents where their influence is going to be. So each of these cards, if you play it for influence, is going to pull the disc or the corresponding planet to one step toward you. The cost in terms of influence and other effects that the card generates. And when you play a card to the board, you implement the effects from left to right. So first you get the influence, and then you resolve the other stuff. And the effects, there are a lot of them, and you really have to learn to read, if not to speak, at least to read Iconese. You have a player aid with the effect descriptions, but it's not complete. Not every symbol that you find here is in here. Just to tell you, there is quite a number of effects and variations on those icons. So more like you use this one to really learn the language and then to be able to read some effects that are not explicitly described anywhere. And that's okay. Takes a little bit at the beginning, but actually then you realize that the icons have been organized in a way that is quite intuitive. So you have a hand of 4 cards at the beginning. It can become bigger later. And when it is your turn, players will alternate. When it is your turn, you must play a card, and you can play it in 1 of 3 ways. The main way is to play it to the slot of a certain planet, on your side, of course, paying the cost there in terms of credits. So if I'm playing that card to Venus, I will play 2 credits. You start with 12, and that's okay. Done. And then again I get a step in my direction in Venus, and then I get to implement these. I can later, if later I play other cards to Venus, I will play them on top of the previous one so that only the top band is visible, and I get a discount for each card that is already there. So this one, if I played it first to Venus, would cost me 3 credits, but now it only costs me 2 because there was one there already. If later I was to play an even more expensive card there, like this one, now it will cost me only 4 because 2 are already there. You may even be able to play cards for free. If I played a 2 or a 1 to Venus right now, for example, I would be able to play that one for free. And after you play the card again, get the influence and then resolve the other effects. And that's for playing cards to the board for influence. Again, when you collect a token, you will collect a bonus token as well if you're the first player to collect influence in a planet. Basically, you're going to place these bonus tokens there at the beginning of the game from a pool of random bonus tokens, and they are a one-time thing. When one is taken, another one is placed there, and then the player will place the planet token they collected in their personal display there. And that's collecting these discs is what you need to win the game. You win if you have collected 3 tokens of the same type, a lot of influence on one planet, or if you have 4 tokens that are all different, spread out and diversified, or if you have For example, right now, this would not be a victory yet. Or if you have 5 tokens, 5 planets. And that's and those are the 3 victory conditions. If first player to match one of those wins the game. It may be that I don't want to play a card to the board for influence. It may be that I can't because I don't have the credits. Another way to use a card is to develop a technology. So we're going to look at this part of the board here with the technology trees. It's 3 different templates that form 3 technology trees. One is animoid technology, human technology, robot technology. These tiles are also double-sided, so you have different tracks for more replayability. When you decide to play a card to develop a technology, then you're going to discard it and you ignore everything but the symbol here that tells you which kind of technology you are developing. For playing cards to the board, you saw the currency of credits. For this, for technology, you have a different currency, Zenithium. These tokens, they're a little harder to come by. You start with 1 and then there are game effects that will give you more. And suppose that, well, I discard a card to develop an animoid technology, and I spend my Zenithium, and then I move up by 1. Yay! So great. And I collect whatever advantage is there. At the beginning, they're a little bit lackluster, for example, collecting 2 credits or getting 1 influence shift in 1 planet. Or transferring a card, this is an effect that is very important, transferring a card from the opponent's side of the board to your side of the board, however, without applying the effects. So, for example, I take that card there and I place it on my side of the board, increasing my presence in that planet and reducing the opponent's presence. You don't activate the effect, but now it's more expensive for the other player to play there, and it's less expensive for you to play because, again, discounts. If you reach level 2 technologies, there are bonus tokens to be taken. Also, when you have all 3 technologies of a certain level, you get a bonus that is indicated here. So, for example, all 3 level 1 technology, you get 1 shift, a shift by 2 spaces, and a shift by 3 spaces. Very powerful. You're likely going to capture a planet with that shift there. Third possible use of a card, you can play it for influence, you can play it for technology, or you can play it to take or improve the leader token. It is placed there at the beginning of the game with the 5 side face up. It has another side showing a 6. In this case, you discard any 1 card into the discard pile, and you take the leader badge from wherever it is, either from the board or the opponent has it. Also, you see the one, when I play a card for leader effects, I only look at the symbol there, because the playing for leaders always will give me the leader token. But then also, if I play a rabbit for leadership, I also collect Zenithium. If I discard a human to get the leader badge, I also collect 3 credits. And here, if an animoid, I get to draw 2 random cards from the deck and add them to the corresponding planets without using the effects again this way. However, definitely triggering discounts for later. And having the leader with this side up gives me a hand of 5 instead of 4. So at the end, once you played your card and applied your effects, you will draw back to your full hand size, which is 4 by default, 5 if you have this one. If I play a card for leadership, animoid, and I already have this one on the 5 side up, then I get to flip it, and now I have a hand of 6, which can be very powerful. But basically, leader tokens is from time to time you get stuck without the Zenithium Unitra technology, or more often, especially as you learn the game, you'll get stuck not having money. That's an easy way of getting some cash. So then you can start playing cards here, having effects that will give you maybe more resources, will have more discounts, and so on and so forth. So it sounds like a lot, but the rules are pretty simple. It's just the icons take a minute to grok. Play a card from your hand, play for a technology, play for influence, play for leadership. until a player has collected the right combination or right number of planet tokens, and that player wins the game. Zenith is really good and really fun, at least for 2 players. That's how I played it, and that's how I think I want to play it. Because it just works that way, and you have to have a plan, and you need to build up to a certain engine, and I like that very much, how the game has an elegant way in which it forces you to release the more powerful effects later in the game, so the game accelerates. Now, the first time that you play, most likely players will underestimate that element and will find themselves running out of money, and then they say, what can I do now? And then they need to do the leader effect, so they get more money from that, and then everything goes back on track. But I really like the fact that there are games where first you have to play the right combination of lands and then you tap them, and so it takes a while for you to build up the engine, but there is a random element. Here you have a lot more control, and you still, because of the discount mechanism, you still are going to start with some calmer elements, calmer effects early on, and then boom, 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 the massive diplomatic effects. And I like that. I like the architecture and the organization. Again, the first game is going to take you longer, A, because people are going to get stuck without any money and they have to use the leader effect more often, B, because the iconies can be intense, and again, you really have to learn it in the truest sense. You can't just refer to the list of effects every time because they're not covered. But after a while, okay, move 3 adjacent planets, the one in the middle by 2 steps and the other ones by 2, blah blah blah. It works, but it takes a minute. But when everything is in place, again, the game is very, very pleasant and fun to play. Pleasant, yes, tug of war is all zero-sum. If you take something, you take it away from me. And yet, there are different mini boards, mini tracks in which you're playing. If you are getting ahead somewhere, I'm getting ahead somewhere else, chances are at least you will use a technology. Meanwhile, as you build that, I steal a token, but that's a short-term advantage. Now you start cashing in something else. I found that the game was surprisingly non-confrontational for a 2-player game based on tug of war, and that is also nice. The art probably also helps because it's super cute and super colorful and fun. And that's why, again, either than for the confrontational thing, and for the number of icons, you can play it, yes, with fairly young players, maybe teenagers up rather than children. But there's nothing violent or negative about this, other than, I guess, the general idea. Why don't we all go together? No, we want to influence the planets and take the influence away from you. But I was really impressed by how these 3 different tasks that you can do, they go well together and they diffract into different things, different technologies, they do different things, different cars, they do a ton of different things. Even the leader tokens, using a robot leader, so you can then develop a technology, or a human leader, so you can then pay the credits to deploy a card. So many different nice little angles, and they all come together very well. So a little bit of a learning hump maybe at the beginning, but Zenith is a fun engine building game, 2 players. That's what I'm going to recommend it for. And hey, if you play with 4 and you tell me it's a million times better than with 2, I'll probably try. But as a 2-player game, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this game.